Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast that delights in the fact that Celtic have fans all over this great big planet. From Dermot Desmond to Dar es Salaam, from Michael Nicholson to Minnesota, wherever you happen to be watching from, you're very much part of A Celtic World. And gents, not exactly a world full of joy and laughter today, is it, David? Asia CSC, how are you feeling?
Wearing black appropriately and matched with Brian beforehand. And I offer my condolences to all of our viewers and let us turn this to a therapy session, I think.
A therapy session, Brian, are you accustomed to those?
Yeah.
Without giving too much personal information away?
No, we just need to talk it out and, lean on each other.
Well,
certainly can't lean on the board.
No, indeed. Well, we're going to get into all that, of course. I almost couldn't be bothered doing this today. Nobody's really in the mood. But as you say, maybe it'll be good for us to talk some of this stuff through. I don't have a menu. We're not going to go through the game photo by photo or anything like that. There wouldn't be too many photos to show. Well, let's make a little start by looking at the thumbnail for the show today. There we go. Good God Almighty. See what I did there? The self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a good thumbnail. Did you like that one, David? I was pretty proud of that.
Absolutely beautiful. Well done.
And do you like the look on Desmond's face there, Brian?
Yeah. Like Trump, I wish he would foxtrot Oscar, just get out of the club. Just all this money and all this mediocrity, and just he's not the man to take. He never was the man to take us forward. He's, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather us be 100 million overdrawn and have a team on the pitch and have a good bank balance. I don't support a bank balance. I support a club. And literally last night, I couldn't see a goal coming from anywhere. I would take Reg 40 rather than Jamie at this stage. I'm just, when you look across the road, 3-0 down after about 10 minutes. I mean, they were ranked rotten, but I still think on paper they would beat us on a head-to-head. But we can go into the bones of it. But just, I've never felt as, not disappointed, it's not the word, it's just hard. It's like fucking Trump, excuse my French. It's like Trump coming out, we're going to release the Epstein files, and then, we're not doing it. It's like, bring Rodgers back and then don't back him. It doesn't make sense. It's like, all the analogies are done with me. It's like putting red diesel in a Ferrari, and if Brendan, see if Brendan wanted to go, I would wish him all the best. Because how can that man succeed and have his vision and all the rest of it? He's not backed. And you can say, well, he's had this and he's bought Engels and he's bought Eda. The bottom line is the team's not fit for purpose. There was too many subs starting for us last night. Eda is a sub, Forrest is a sub, Scales is a sub. KT is struggling with Dyson. The two of them aren't on the same page, and there's part of me thinking Dyson's gone. And see if he does go, well, so be it.
Okay, well, you're straying into many different subjects there, Brian. Yeah. But it's good to let it out. You vent. That's fine.
Me. I sit in the fence.
All right. Well, let's talk about the circumstances of how we watched the game, because I was up at 2:45 a.m. to watch that.
Fair play.
Watch it from 3 o'clock to 5 or whatever. And then I know my son's getting up at 6 for the school run, so I may as well just stay up. And it was all pretty grim, just sitting there watching it in the middle of the night, feeling sweaty and uncomfortable and slapping my knee in frustration. David, what was your experience watching the game?
Well, I didn't watch the game, but I watched the comments from you lot in the WhatsApp group, because in my 50s, 2-3 o'clock in the morning is an inevitable wake-up point during the night for me. So I kind of went between BBC and the WhatsApp group, and I thought about putting it on, and I couldn't bring myself to it and chose sleep. So I watched it today, and it was a struggle. And difficult to dismantle the game. Maybe we will do. I don't know if you want to go through that, Gav, but we're in a toxic relationship with this board. They're gaslighting us. There's issues within our tactics, I get, as well, our subs, and perhaps when we've had money, what we've bought with it. But I think the fundamental, this is the game that's been coming all summer long. And so one way or another, it's a wake up for the board, it's a wake up for the fans, and it should be for Brendan, whatever he chooses to do. But I feel as if in any of these toxic relationships, we need to take care of the kids a bit, maybe not put it on the players so much, but certainly the board need to have a thought.
Well, that's something we're going to talk about, like how do we apportion, the responsibility among the board, the manager, the players. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But let's reflect for a moment on what the mood music was like going into this game. There was still a fair amount of positivity around, and a lot of people were talking about, reckon we need a 3-goal lead. This is Asim Rabbani here. Reckon we need a 3-goal lead to feel fully comfortable going into next week. Whether with our front line at the moment we're capable of that, I'm not so sure. Other people saying absolute bottom line is a 1-goal win. Confident we'll get through 5-0, etc., etc. And then someone at the bottom, the Bull Stavros, saying too many folk are overly confident for my liking. So that's what we were talking about going into this game. Are we going to get a big enough cushion to effectively render the return leg obsolete and boldly march into the Champions League, where by the time we have to play there, we'll have a whole bunch of new players and blah, blah, blah. That was the positive spin. Although there's been a lot of people sounding the warning that, this wake-up call is definitely coming, and there's a chance that we might slip up in this particular banana skin. All right, but let's talk about, well, something that came up in our group chat, you may have seen, was certain people were very upset with the selection of the first team. And this was it. Brian, did that surprise you in any way? Is that the team you would have put on?
No, I would have had, excuse me, I would have definitely had Engels on the pitch. I've watched Negrin over the last few weeks, and I just think I don't know what role he has. I know what role he's meant to be playing, but I would have Engels in there all day long, above Negrin. And Ida, obviously not on form. Maida, not on form. Hatate blowing hot and cold. You can't really do it. You have to try and play. I think Schmeichel's been off it, but Scales, for me, that lineup, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but Scales is an ex-Shamrock Rovers player who's probably at best an Ireland sort of reserve international. This is a Champions League qualifier. That's the best of a bad bunch is all I can say. But there's too many subs on that team. Ida's a sub, Forrest's a sub, Scales is a sub, and I think Negrin was bang average of even that. So mix that in with KT and Dyson not really having a great relationship, but they seem to be clogging up the left-hand side of the pitch, losing AJ and Jamesy being off it. It just was I think we were lucky to get away with a 0-0.
Okay, but
the team.
It's easy to look
at
at this team with hindsight, because we know what happened, Brian. But as Adrian points out here, that's a team almost everyone picked, right, David?
No, this is a team that I would have picked. Ida's the obvious issue of late. He's certainly someone that we probably need to discuss and understand. But that's the team I would have picked. It's our best team, and we certainly saw that when the subs came on. So I don't think I had any issue with the team.
One thing that we were talking about on the previous show in the preview to this is whether Negron should have been pushed out to the wing to make room for Engels, because we were gonna, we'd want them both on the pitch in some way, because we need creativity, we need goals, we need our best assets, like the corners, the amount of corners we had, and Engels was
15 or
nowhere to be
something, wasn't
seen. Yeah, so unfortunately that isn't what happened, but I think that's what a lot of people were hoping to see, that Brendan would start with Engels in midfield and Negron on the wing. Okay, so that was the team. Let me see. I don't have photographs to go through the game, like we normally do. I just couldn't bring myself to sit through that again, capture the stills, to be honest. But there's loads of comments here. People are talking about all sorts of stuff in the live chat. So I'm sorry I haven't been able to pull too many of them up because they're all over the place in terms of subjects. But the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of photographs that I've got here, or images to share, is Rodgers subbing Ida at halftime was 1,000,000% him admitting he's not good enough. He knew he needed goals tonight and pushed the panic button. Rodgers' own fault for persisting with him, but there's no way he can start now. I was really hoping that this was going to be Ida's moment of redemption, and I put it in the group chat, didn't I, that he's going to bang in a couple of goals and the whole narrative around him is going to change, but it just seems to be getting worse and worse, David.
I think there's a couple of issues with Ida. I think he himself doesn't show enough in terms of his fitness. He doesn't look quite on it all the time. He seems to be lost a bit of the time as well. Certainly struggles to keep on his feet when he's challenged, but he certainly lacks delivery. You could say that Tierney's throwing in crosses, etc. But you remember we were watching the watch along, Gav, and there was in that last game, and we could see that he was in free space, but for whatever reason, the players just didn't seem to want to provide him the ball. And there was the same situation very clearly, and it was McGregor. Instead of passing it to Ida, he put it to Maeda, and it was the wrong move. And it could have resulted in an opportunity for Ida to be able to show maybe some value that we've all wanted from him. I've tried as much as I can to sort of back him and G him on, because he kind of looks physically like someone that should be up there. But there's just so much around him that just doesn't seem to gel either with the team or his own fitness levels. And I think he had been I saw one other show, was it, I think Celtic AM, someone had mentioned that he was put through some work at halftime and he was physically sick, and that's why they took him off.
Lactic acid or something. Yeah.
So whether it's lactic acid or his just general fitness isn't up to it, I think with Ida there's more than just one issue. I also think this plays into the talk about the board as well, and we'll leave that for now. So yeah.
How many crosses have been fired into the box without Ida being anywhere near when the ball's going? We'd have been as well starting with 10 men last night. I mean, is that a criticism of Ida's positioning or a criticism of the crosses? Because you can't say he got lots of service and fluffed his lines left, right and centre, Brian. That wasn't that kind of game, right?
No, I think you in these kind of you have to play players in form, and unfortunately, none of our front four are in any kind of form, and that's all I can say at this stage. It was, I can't believe Shin Yamada got onto the pitch. I just don't think we've got it in depth. We don't have anyone who can change the game. You know, I said all along, he is a sub. He's an impact player, and there's players like Yang, who I believe is an impact player also, but they're not starters. I just think the team is way off it, way off it. Like, you know, we're looking now and getting 17 million for Kuhn. I mean, who's our next player? Who's going to come in and buy any of our players now for 25, 15 million? I tell you what, see if somebody come up and says, I'll give you 3 for Rita and 15 for Dyson, I would bite their hand off. The only problem is it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to go into the bank. Maida's been off form, and he had a couple of chances that could have took the anxiety and the pressure off us. On another day would have went in. And I look at that game, was it the Falkirk game? He laid one across from the left-hand side. I don't know if his head's been turned or what the hell's going on, but I wish Brendan would be more box office, and I'd rather have him coming out and throwing the board under the bus and having a bit of balls than just sitting being the yes man. And there's too many yes men in our club, too many yes men.
We're jumping around again.
I know we are, Gav. I know we are.
You're talking about Maeda. Like, he seems to have regressed to the original Maeda, the one that divided opinion. You know, last season everyone was behind him because he was doing everything right. In that game, you know, his shot at the end, he skied across, didn't he? Like the way he used to all the time. Just never know where the ball's going to go when he tries something. A lot of people are saying, his head maybe turned, he's out the door. I saw someone saying both him and Hatate are out the door. I mean, it's all speculation, who knows? But he's all over the joint. Let's talk about this subject next then. Alistair Johnston, David, had to be stretchered off in the 35th minute. Looks like he did his hamstring.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes from bad to worse.
Yeah. I mean, has he been our best player? He's certainly someone that I would want within the team right now with the depth of squad that we've got. He gave a wave to the crowd as he was going off, but I didn't get any update. Maybe someone can give us an update on where he's at with that. I was hoping because he did wave to the crowd and show his, I don't know if it was just appreciation of them, clapping him off. But this isn't a team that can have someone like that leave the team for any length of time, because we've already got good players out, Jota amongst them, that we need back in the team. So it just shows what we face in terms of the squad that we've got right now. We certainly played the starting 11 that I thought we had, that provided us best options, and it just got from bad to worse, and that was one of the issues that we're going to have to face now in the league as well.
It's grim, isn't it? Just recently, people, Brian, were saying, "Oh, look at our left back and right back combo. We haven't seen a better one for ages." And that was the one thing we could hang our hat on, was the defensive line looked pretty solid, at least our first choice. Glaring hole in terms of support at left back. Now we've got a glaring hole in terms of support at right back and our first right back for the foreseeable. So, that's grim. That's a grim thing to have happened, isn't it? Were you watching behind the sofa when this occurred?
I was watching behind the sofa. It was getting quite cold here, so I lit the fire, a load of wood, and so I was out chopping wood and back and forth, drinking wine, back out for a bit more wood, back on. It's hateful. It's not good for my blood pressure. It's, and the poor wife, she was sitting there watching me pace the floor. And just want to give a shout out to my son in fourth year who got his GCSE, his first year GCSE results. He got an A and 3B, so well done, Michael. Don't know where you got it from, obviously from the wife, but just way to ruin a bank holiday, Celtic. Thanks for that.
Sticking more blue tack on your Alberts poster, says Monty.
And the worst of it is, I mean, that Maggie mob across the way look absolutely rank rotten. And all we needed to do was, I would have took 2-0 last night. But
I know I was laughing my head off at them and putting things on Twitter, laughing at their fans and all, thinking that, we're going to be sitting pretty today. Not sitting so pretty now, are we? Tell you who was sitting pretty though, the Kairat fans. Let's have a word about the Kairat fans. 57 Kairat fans made the grueling journey. And they were having a whale of a time, weren't they?
They were noisy enough.
Yeah, you could hear them singing at one stage. Which tells you something about how Celtic Park had been quietened down.
We should take a moment to talk about that team because they were quite tidy. I think we've kind of like talked only about how bad Celtic were, but that was a team that right from the start showed no fear and played to all of their strengths.
Absolutely.
So fair play to them.
I know they're on the brink of like the most exciting thing that's ever happened to them.
Yeah, and well deserved.
Yeah, so they're having a great time. I wonder how the Rangers rabble would describe their facial appearances.
Oh, yo.
Huh?
Right.
At least we never say things like that, Brian. Huh?
Of course. I'm a wee bit racist. I hate fascists, so that's the only kind of racist thing I would be. I hate people that are right wing, and I hate people that are racist and fascist. So, if other than that, I don't dislike anybody. I respect everybody. But thank you, David Clarkson. Thank you very much. I never got an A in my life. Gav, you got a couple of A's back in the day. I know I got a couple of E's, but that was another story.
All right, so yeah, the Kairat fans, well done to them. That was the Kazakhs, a great bunch of lads, says Craig Young. It's a funny way of putting it. There's lots of women in their number. But yeah, for them, this is just the best thing that's ever happened. And
how much would they be on a week? What would Satpayev, he's on probably $1,000 a week
idea.
or something.
I don't know how much money there is in their game. Maybe at the top end there's
maybe there is
decent money.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So what do we think about I hear you're a racist now there, Brian.
Only racist against fascists.
How much time would you dedicate to the racism then?
15 minutes a day usually,
Right. Plunge McNugget. I've been watching Celtic for 50 years, and that team are the most awkward and frustrating I've ever watched Celtic play. Yeah, well, let's talk about the return leg, all right? Because the reality is we're halfway through the tie. Callum McGregor, you would have seen him in the post-match saying, we need to go there next week and win, and that's no problem.
Sorry.
No, yeah. I think it's a problem. Where would I put our chances of getting through this tie and getting into the Champions League? I'd say 1 in 3. David, would you argue with that, or where would you put it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a 50-50, of course. I think Callum, I saw that interview with Callum McGregor. I think he was just using a football cliche. I don't think he actually meant that it's not a problem that they'll actually win it. I think he had some realism about him, media training.
No, I think he was just saying we're halfway through the tie. We have to go there and win. That's on us. We're confident we can do that, and we're professionals, so that's what our aim is. We don't have a problem with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he was being dismissive of that team and going over there, but it could easily be taken that way. But we have that team played incredibly well to their strengths, and they were not intimidated by Celtic Park. We have an absence of strike power. Our closing passes, finishing passes were off. We talked about Maida and him going back to having a touch like an elephant. Well, he does all of the hard work and then doesn't seem to be able to do it, which he had resolved last year. Had done some incredible work. We have an issue because our issue is that we need to go and score there and come back with a win. And that's what we need to do. And that is essentially, and also our defence looks shaky. And so I think there's every chance that they will feel confident. They should feel confident. And again, take an opportunity to say well done to them for the way in which they approached their game. They weren't particularly dirty, but they were physical, professional, and organised, and direct, and took advantage when they saw it. So if that's what we're up against, and this discontent that we've got between clearly Brendanrodgers and the board now, that doesn't bode well. So I don't think that we are in a brilliant position going there, and we really need to focus on that game, and we need to turn up. There was a comment at the very beginning of just before the show came on about what we need to do tactically in terms of changing our position. I think there's something about the manager as well, looking at his formation, how he needs to change things up to address the obviousness of some of our play, given that we don't have players who can change a game. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm not sure that we will get a result. I don't know.
Where would you put it in terms of likelihood?
It's in the balance. You said a 1 and 3. I'll go 1 and 3. I'll go with that.
Brian, higher. Do I hear higher than 1 and 3?
Higher than 4. I think we'll go through, and
Wow.
I think. I mean, can we play as bad again?
Absolutely.
Of course
I
we
think
can. But we have to. I mean, you look at the team for the team you should be picking. Negrin shouldn't be anywhere near it, and Ida obviously will not be anywhere near it, and neither will Alistair Johnston because he's injured. So he has to make. I really think Rodgers' game plan for the next leg is going to be 0-0, extra time and penalties.
Penalties.
I think he's going to. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play a striker. And went for something.
Brian, let me ask you a question.
4-5. Craig Levine. That's what I think he's going to do. Sorry, David.
I just want to ask you a question on that. On last night's performance, which team looked braver? Which team looked as if they were more capable of being on that stage? And it wasn't us.
Kairat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the bit between their teeth. They wanted more, all the usual terminology. But if they go through, they deserve it because they beat the Finnish champions. They beat Slovan Bratislava, who, looking at the last game, should have beat them 3 or 4. But they're there and they deserve to be there. And if we don't win, we don't deserve to be there. And
penalties are a big scare for me.
How about this question from Rubber Duck then? If it goes to penalties, would you rather Casper or Sinisalo between the sticks?
Sinisalo.
Casper still.
I mean, you'd fancy Sinisalo to get to the ones that are heading right for the corner, right for just inside the post, wouldn't you?
Can you put that comment up from Mo? Yeah.
Can you do it?
You see it there? I don't know that I can. Can I put it up?
I don't know. There's tons of comments, and I'm a bit back in there.
2-0.
Let me read it. So Mo was saying he'll play Ida deep to chase long balls. There was a point in the match last night that a long ball, I think it was Ralston, punted a ball, and Maya couldn't just get on the end of it, or was it Hatati? I can't remember. And it appeared to me that it was like, yeah, that's not pretty, but that actually might be effective. And there's something to be said about this idea of the robotic playing through a Brendan option that we might just need to get Scottish down and dirty and do stuff like that. If it comes to penalties, that's a team that are not, to me, are up for doing that. So I think that's a very risky option.
Tierney could play on the wing next week.
No,
That would solve a
yeah.
lot of attacking problems. What with Maeda as a striker and
Yeah,
That's a possibility.
and who's at left back? Scales, obviously.
Scales or Simpson
Scales.
Pusey.
Yeah.
Simpson Pusey won't fill in at left back, will he?
Trusty's left-sided, isn't he? He wouldn't play Trusty left back. I don't know.
I mean, there's an awful lot of moving around of the pieces here and playing players out of position. You heard Brendan talking about that post-match.
There's some crazy stats about the number of changes that took place last night. I think, again, I heard on the Celtic AM. That was like 3 different changes.
Other podcasts are available.
I'll just say. I didn't do the research, so I don't want to claim it for my own.
Good job that show goes on just before ours. We all watch that and regurgitate it.
But I think just well, it was. You don't need the stats. It was clear there was so many players in the second half playing out of position, and that says a great deal of the depth of squad. When can we get onto the board? When are we allowed to get onto the board?
Okay, well, just quickly, having watched Celtic AM, you'll be able to answer this question for us then, David. Hey, didn't that guy Valery Gromyko play even though he was suspended, and therefore we're going to go through because they didn't obey the rules?
Please. Do you remember that? Do you remember, was it Legia Warsaw a few years ago? Under Ronnie? That happened.
Well, apparently, if you watch Celtic AM closely, they poo-pooed that and said there's some specific rule that means that doesn't apply.
There was also comment about that during the match, I think, about some of the visa stuff coming last minute, so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't think that was an issue. And we shouldn't, dear God, let's not hope on those things.
Right. You want to talk about the board? All right. This is the point of the self-fulfilling prophecy of the thumbnail. History tells us, this is Peter Lawwell, that we will not always qualify for the Champions League, and the benefit of holding cash reserves affords us the optionality of managing through seasons where we participate in the Europa League with the ability to retain our squad as opposed to selling key players to bridge the income shortfall between both competitions. In other words, keep a big cushion of cash because we won't always get into the Champions League. But, refusing to spend that cash will result in you not getting into the Champions League. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, we're not run like a Champions League club. So I don't know. I mean, the obvious consequence of not running yourself like a Champions League club is you're not one. And this is what we're staring down the barrel of at the moment. Obviously, we're not competing with the very cream of Europe. Those who come or who might win one of the top 5 leagues. We're not even competing with the second tier. Those who might win the lesser leagues or come high up in the top 5 leagues. We're competing sort of in the third tier of Europe with all these other clubs, Feyenoord and Ferencváros and I don't know who else. These other clubs that are investing and acting like Champions League clubs. But we're not, so what the fuck other consequence do you expect, David?
I expect no difference to what we've been through. It is a groundhog event that we are existent in, and while there's an operational level, some economic sense to Peter Lowell, what he says, I think we're well beyond the threat from the noisy neighbours. We are well beyond the need to stockpile cash for the Scottish League, and if there is no ambition, which is at the heart of every Celtic supporter, then welcome to the next 10 years. I'd get very tired of this idea that, the state. Yeah, I understand fiduciary responsibility, and keeping good books, and we're looked upon well in Europe, etc., except when it comes to winning anything. And there's a sort of false economy now at play. Peter Lau should know that as well as anybody else, if he is a true accountant and ex-banker. There's a thing called hedging that is used by many successful businesses, and we don't do it. And the sheer lack of ambition but it's more than that. It's the attitude of the board that we know only too well against the fans. They are only too obvious when they want to put fans down, including the Green Brigade, when frankly I'm never sure just exactly what it is that they've done so badly wrong. They'll spend time on things like that. They will play us when it comes to putting out 10 kits and playing on the Irish heritage. It is clear to me that emotionally there is a disconnect between Brendan Rodgers and Peter Lau. Peter Lau probably still is in the huff because his son was exited and couldn't stay there because of these things. Peter Lau probably brings up at every opportunity, see, you made me buy a 9 million player to Brendan Rodgers, hence why I ain't doing it any more for you. And Peter Lau as chairman shouldn't have that kind of influence. But do any of us believe that it is anybody other than Peter Lau who's running this club? I hand over. Brian, I'm sure. I don't know.
I was listening to a podcast about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and allegedly any player over 3 million, Desmond has to have the final say. Hence, we were fanning around in the sort of £3 million bracket. I don't know. There's a real disconnect between the club, even the standards, the dugouts as well. I'm going to throw it all out here. That really don't care about the fans. You look at the product, this Celtic TV, it's rubbish. It's the commentary, Jerry McCulloch and all that. It's too many jobs for the boys. And as much as
I draw the line at Jerry McCulloch. I can take getting punted out of the Champions League qualifiers, but Jerry McCulloch is a step too far.
What do you mean?
He makes me look trivial, but
all right, sorry. He makes me look talented, But it's like, as David says, 3-4 kits and all this pish, and they know that there's a season, there's waiting list for season tickets, but it's what do you do? I mean, as punters, as fans, we've seen this before. We've seen it all the time. But what do? We have to do something. We have to stand up and be counted and voice our opinion. And I really am at a loss. And if Brendan wanted, all of them wanted to go, it wouldn't bother me. All go. Let them fucking, excuse my language. There's not one of them players I would keep. See if CCV wants to go. If they all want to go, get them out the door. I'll tell a lie, McCowan, I'd keep him. All the rest of them, we could all do one. They've really let us down. Everything about the club is wrong at the minute, including the manager. And I'd rather Brendan come out and have a pair of balls and say, they're not backing me. At least have a bit of respect for the player, have a bit of respect for the fans.
I think Brendan was quite articulate in how he managed the questions about the Saka ball chance, etc. So I think he did a really good job. And often when Brendan is on his game as a seasoned manager and interviewee, he does well. And he does have skills to be able to do that. He handled it really well last night, I thought. He made it very clear what some of the issues were.
I wish he'd have handled the team selection and substitution slightly better.
So we can come to that, and I think there's no question that we've discussed it. And ahead of the next game, do we really need to look at some of the selection? We've had the elite manager discussions, and I think there's lots to be said within there as well. No problem. But I think if we are Do we genuinely believe that last night's results was only on the team and brendanrodgers tactics? I just don't believe it. I think there's.
Well, it's not
I think
only
there's-
on the board either. It's, everyone has to own up to some responsibility.
Even
Players, manager, and board.
All right.
Even in the dark days in the 90s, we had people who could score goals.
We still should have won. We still should have beaten them last night. We're far superior to them, supposedly, in every ranking and metric you can see. It was 12 o'clock to midnight to 2 a.m. for their body clocks. We're supposed to be starting the first 5 minutes at incredible pace. That's what Brendan's been drumming into the players, apparently. First 5 minutes, they were silenced at Celtic Park with their attacking intent and more sharpness on the ball. We definitely should have won that game with that team.
Do you believe that this summer, our trading summer that we had, allowed us to go into that game with confidence and ensure that expected result?
Of course, it goes without saying that the transfer background is horrific. But still, those 11 versus 11 that played in that game yesterday, we should have been beaten it.
Why? Why do you think so?
Well, because, man for man, our players are far more experienced. They play at a higher level. A lot of them were in the Champions League last year and equipped themselves well. Obviously, we're losing a lot of star power since then. But, this is the highest level they've played at. They're on the brink of achieving things they've never achieved before. For us, getting through Champions League qualifier against a team from Kazakhstan, all due respect, should be relatively routine.
Yeah.
It should be. The fact that it wasn't, is why we're all crying at our cornflakes. Oh my God. It's grim.
I think there's players that have been there too long. There's been about the place, and you need that in any industry, in any business. James E. Forrest, as much as I love him, it's his 17th year knocking about the place. Kennedy as well. Just maybe even Cal, maybe people are sitting there going, aye, right, Cal, I'm not saying for Cal to go, but sometimes we need a change of voice. You need something else in there, and we haven't found it. We're a team low on confidence. We're a team low on quality. And I don't know who could really come into that team. I mean, you're talking at this stage on the back of that team last night. You're talking we need 4, 7, 8 out of 10 players, starters to come into that team.
I'm thinking about Gav's comments there, Brian, and he's saying that we're the experienced team. When we've been a team that you were exciting and you'd want to go and watch, a lot of that team have been stripped away. A lot of that experience have been stripped away. So I think we've got to talk about the experience within the team that we've got and whether or not they gel as a team from someone like Forrest all the way through the team to the front, where you've got Ida, who doesn't seem to be anybody's favourite pick right now, and we can debate why that is. But this isn't a team that I think we can say we should be able to go in against Europe. Europe is an intimidating stage to play on, even at your home ground, and we should have taken advantage of that. We didn't. So therefore, I don't see how we can say at any point with this team, with this relationship with the board and the way in which the club is right now, that we have any right to expect to do well.
What was Brendan's comment? He was asked about after the match, and he goes, "I'd love to tell you, but I can't." What was the sort of I mean, I know vaguely the context, but you know the exact words. He says, "I'd love to tell you, but I can't." I mean, that speaks volumes in itself.
Tell me that one, but when did that happen? Sorry, tell me.
At the end of the game, I can't remember who asked the question, but it was, what's going on with the recruitment and something like that. And Brendan replied, "I would love to tell you, but I can't." And then he sort of sidestepped it and said, "All the players that I have been doing really well," and all the rest of it. But
the only thing I saw in the context of that, he said that, look, I'm only going. So I think it was a comment at the back of, sack the board. Well, usually it's the manager who gets sacked, so etc. And then but then someone pressed them on again and said, "But do you understand the frustration of the fans in respect of signings?" And then he kind of just said, "Well, look, for me, I'm dealing with what I've got. There is no question that we need more." So he was clear, right? We need more and better, and it's not just enough to be able to turn up. I'm not sure he said that, like, love to tell you, but it was kind of much more along those lines. But he was fairly explicit in saying, we need more at this level. We're good. We are good enough for the Scottish League, but when it comes to Europe, we're not good enough.
Well, we're not good enough for the Champions League, and we may not be in the Champions League, right? So let's think about that for a while. Oh, just as I say that, Patrick James Simpson comes in with a comment. Maybe Europa League is Celtic's level. A tough Champions League draw could be 7-0 hammerings every game. Now, of course, it goes without saying we all want to be in the Champions League. We think we're a Champions League club and all that. But maybe we were until now, and now we're not. The decline has been such that we're simply not. So let's consider that. What happens if we go into the Europa League? Now, the main thing about Champions League, of course, there's cachet. We want to be playing against the best clubs, the top 30 or whatever, 24 or whatever it is in the world, in Europe, because that's where we think we belong. Of course, there's all the money, but, many Celtic fans are getting to the point where saying the money doesn't matter a damn because it never gets reinvested. So we can take that off the table as part of our reasoning as to why being in the Champions League is better. Is there any part of either of you that has a sort of sneaky suspicion that the Europa League would be a happier hunting ground for us and might not be so bad? David?
There's no question that I'm going to watch a Europa League game. I would be up at any time of the night to watch a final that we could ever get to in a Europa, and well done to Ange Postecoglou for doing such. So, like, who wouldn't want that on their CV? Who wouldn't want European games, whether it's Champions League or otherwise? Being a Champions League and progressing in there is I think is obviously significant. I think you structurally need to be different as a club to be able to do that, but the payoff is huge. I don't know what the difference is between us progressing within Europa, Champions in Europa, but the fall is significant. But for us, in terms of how this board looks at their finances, my guess is that they'd be happy with what that, put another 5 million on top of the 100 million. That gets us through, do our little trading model. We walk away with our bonuses. We have stability. Everybody thinks we're the good guys in Europe. And the fans don't like us. We don't care. But as a supporter, to your question, would I be happy in the Europa? Of course. I want to see Celtic in Europe in any form.
Ryan, would it stick in your craw?
Not interested in Europa League. It's second girlfriend syndrome. It's just, it's whatever. Sorry, why do I need to do analogies? If people understand what I'm saying. No interest in Europa League. If we were interested, Europa League's Hibs, Aberdeen, Sevco, and even if we get in, it's everything was set up for us. We could have got Bruges. We could have got Basel. we could have got. There's a couple other tricky enough draws. I think Kyiv. We got the draw that we wanted on paper, and we couldn't do it. So, as far as I'm concerned, if we want to regress, and I just want us to be in the Champions League, get the money, reinvest it, and be the best Celtic that we can be. Unfortunately, it seems to be, I know we had a conversation about this at the end of last season, there's part of me thinking of the fattening up the cow to sell it on. And at this stage, I would please somebody come in. I mean, look at Palace, see Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace will probably win that Europa League. And they've invested well and bought well, and they've a good manager in there. I really think that we're light years behind, and we're paying the price for overpaying and fannying around at this time last year with players there that don't want to be there. And it's as always with Celtic, we're the architects of our own downfall, and we are here, and we just have to put up with it, unfortunately.
Let me ask a question that was just going back a little bit, but it kind of to this point about what you said there, Brian, about fattening up the calf. Do you not think that the board, people were asking, we don't have any power, we have nothing. People will not take money away from Celtic. They'll buy the tops. They'll wait in line for the season tickets. But you've got to think, hearing those chants last night at Celtic Park, that's got to sting anybody. And if that were to be something you'd have to face every week, at some point as a human, you would have to say, "Oh, no more. This is enough."
Yeah.
I think you don't need to do that much. I think if they were to turn up, not Celtic stuff where the board were running out of the director's box immediately at the full-time whistle. But if you were to hear that all the time, that's got to get wearing. And I think that might be all it would take for them to say, right.
Yeah.
And they know a story about this club that we don't. So they know what Dermot is planning. We don't. So
Dermot doesn't know what's planning. There is no planning. There's a real disconnect between the fans and the club and the hierarchy. The product, the services, the inflated prices, the level of disrespect they have for the fans, the treatment of the Green Brigade and Pyro, and the fact that they're not even in any kind of dialogue to try and get beer sold at the game again. They're living, it's bowling club mentality. And last night we were everything aligned for Kairat, and but the problem is I'll support Celtic regardless, but just sometimes we're at the stage now. I think that the fans just need every opportunity. Sack the board. Well,
sack the board's not going to do anything. Saying sack the board, as people are pointing out. If we go out of Europe, if we go out of the Champions League in this next game, there's going to be fan action of some sort, isn't there? There's going to be boycotts and walkouts.
I don't know that there is. I don't think we're organised in that way as we were before, and I don't know that there's a unifying force as there was before with Matt and all the guys for the Celts for Change. I don't know that we've got that anymore, and the people who would organise and create that, probably the Green Brigade, but they do divide the fans as well. I think for the most part we're light and we need them, but I don't know that the situation that existed then is now. But Big Dom, I have to maybe disagree. I don't think it's water off a duck's back. I actually think they hear it. And I wouldn't want to go along every week to hear that every week if someone was... I just wouldn't. And I think individually those people are quite wealthy. I don't know that they need to hear that week in, week out. I think at some point there's a kind of like enough. So I don't see why not. That can't be the means by which change can occur. And I think it's a different situation to the 90s. And we need to think about it in that way. Or else we'll be here next year saying the exact same thing.
There's zero engagement. I've said this previously, David. I couldn't tell you what Michael Nicholson's accent is because I've heard the man speak, I think, once. Do you remember the guy that took over from Lawwell and he brought Ange in and the rugby guy? He was trying to get fan engagement and all that. It's all just knocked in the head again. Do you know?
Yeah.
There's too many.
He wasn't well liked at all.
There's too many decisions, just too many Tories at the club. Obviously, the club is a brand and all the rest of it. And as much as I love them and players, God rest them, like John Fallon and John Clark, who passed a few weeks ago. But there's too many people about the club that's been there too long. There's no fresh ideas. I would like a lot more women about the place. There's like one woman on the board, so straight away we need to redress that balance. But we need to get a team on the pitch. You know, we really are an embarrassment at the minute. It is really embarrassing. And there's the peak. And I mean, you look at Scotland per head, per number of people who pay money to go and watch. I mean, many people live in Scotland, David. Is it 3.5 mil, 5 mil? And out of that,
5 million, closer to 5 million.
So 5 million people, and I think something like, is it 3.5/4 million are football fans and spend money on football product. So if you look at that capita per head, compared to America, compared to France, compared to whatever, but we're treated like absolute, you know, the police, the heavy-handed approach, the kettling, the horses, we're treated like absolute scum. And I know when you saw the rugby that was on there 6 months ago, and there was some fucking rugby guy puking his ring all over another guy, and to be fair, it was Ireland or Scotland, I don't know, but how can they treat us and have that much disrespect for us as fans who, you know, don't have disposable income, do not have extra money to buy this, that, and the other, but still make it work, who compromise, you know, fashion, cars, this, that, and the other to go and follow the club, and that for them to put that kind of crap on last night, and the fact that nobody's coming out apart from Rodgers. If I was Brendan, I would come out and say, guys, I'm only talking about football here. It's going to be a quick press conference, or I would even just send out Stevie Woods or Kennedy, because it's literally it's a show that's happening that we don't need to see. It's an absolute airing of dirty linen in public. This doesn't need to happen. It needs to be managed. There's no managing, and I haven't like John Paul Taylor, God love him, one person. Yeah, they're where to begin, you know? We'll win the treble, you know.
Jerry Smith says, "Look, feck it, we'll still win the treble." So you know, yeah, things are pretty dark at the moment, has to be said. Obviously, everyone's really. A lot of the fans are in a bad place, very upset. Fair enough, but that was a very, very poor showing in the first leg of this Champions League qualifier. But we're at halftime. You know, there's still a possibility that we can turn it around. Still that possibility. And where there's hope, there's life. Is that what people say? Or where there's life, there's hope?
7-0.
Very good. All right. Let me just play this quickly, because there's over 150 people watching live. There's quite a lot of new faces in the chat.
Lovely.
So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to respond to something that's going on in the chat. Just a sec.
Hey Bempot, show these guys some love, would ya? AW finger tap or mouse click like this. Cheers, pal.
Cheers, pal. Right. What's going on? Someone keeps saying put the email up. I'm not sure what's going on. I have a feeling some messages aren't getting through into the chat. Like there's something. Is something to do with like the fan action email or something, or is that to do with the shareholders? You know, that movement to get all the shareholders under one umbrella.
But they've been quiet
I
for a while.
I'm not sure what it is, but it keeps getting a mention. So I don't know what that is. Maybe you could
Is it?
clarify, because I haven't seen any emails. I don't know if emails go through into the live chat. Maybe they get filtered out. What the problem? I've no idea. So if some of your messages in the chat haven't been appearing, I don't know why that is. I've been putting up as many of them as we can, especially when they're relevant to what we're talking about right now. Like Monty talking about the woman beside him in the stadium, rubbing her breast against him. That wasn't particularly relevant to what we're talking about. Henrik McLaughlin wanting to marry Beyonce. Again, not quite relevant.
Invite me to the wedding, Henrik.
All right, so how do we leave it, lads? How do we leave it? This is the end of our therapy session, David. Do you want to wrap it up and give us some positivity to look forward to?
No, naturally, I think it's a wake-up call. Whenever that happens, there's a refocus. Let's support the team, Brendan. The board can do one, but let's get behind the team, Brendan. And I think on to the next game. Let's support players that are struggling. That's what supporters are supposed to be doing. And let's get into them.
Brian?
I'll always continue to support the club, and I think the players are under a lot of pressure to put on a better fist of it, for want of a better word. I think he'll ring the changes. I hope he does. And we cannot have any passengers on at this level. And whilst I don't think we had too many passengers, I would be very doubtful if Ida will get the nod again anytime soon for the Champions League. And I think he'd maybe go with Hatate up front. You just have to be positive. And it's a real sore one because you're at home and then the travel and all that. But it's not beyond us. It's not right. I think we'll win. We'll get a sneaky 1-0. I hope to God that McCowan and Engels are on the pitch. No interest in the Livingston game. I couldn't care. I would stick out the kids for that and just, or maybe you play the first 11 who you want to play in the Champions League game, get them up to speed. But there's certainly things aren't as certainly there's something not quite right with Celtic at the minute in terms of recruitment and money and all the rest of it. Sure. I suppose if you're looking at from the board point of view, the board are going, well, look at your man Alameda. He's a 9 million for that, and they're not wrong, but it's just difficult. I can't see the goals. It reminds me of Strachan days. That but you had Nakamura there. You had not Gary Hooper. You had Scott McDonald. You had Vinegar Hessling. But I remember watching some games that Celtic played under Strachan, and you didn't see a goal coming at all. If we can start banging in a few goals from somewhere, anybody,
Yeah. Well, somebody says there, Scott Dougal says, so Fergus McCann, that said, being a Celtic supporter isn't always easy. These are not easy days, but we'll just have to see what happens. There's a possibility that the clouds can part and the sun can shine through, but there's a lot of issues, obviously, in the bigger picture with the club that we would all love to see addressed. Let's be honest. Anyway, thank you very much to everyone. I'm just gonna. Well, we don't want to get back into it. We've run over time already. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is more the real thing. Someone needs to corner and talk to Dermot Desmond, or his ear needs to be taken.
He doesn't care. He's sitting fanning around the golf club. Piss off. Seriously, do get your moustache and shove up your arse. Go away. Don't need you. Sitting living on past glories. It's like all these, the Irish mafia, JP Magner and McManus and all these boys, big shots. You know what it is, lads? You're going to die in about 5 years' time. Fuck off. Give us our club back. Spend the money. on that note,
Okay. On that note, we'll wrap it up. There, you heard it here first, Desmond. All right. See you, lads. Thank you very much to everyone in the chat, as always. It's been fun. Let's end it on that note with people smiling. Okay. See you on the next show, lads. Hail, hail.